Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled Home Depot. Almost forgot about my experience, but I saw another Home Depot one and something clicked. So a few years ago, I was at Home Depot with my dad getting mulch and compost to fill in a flower bed, right? So I'm wearing a white t-shirt, some khakis, sneakers, and an undone blue-white button-up plaid shirt with the sleeves rolled to my elbows. I know you all love to hear what we're wearing at the time. No orange whatsoever, save for the bit accenting my shoes, nor anything even remotely formal, uniform-esque, right? So I'm heading outside to get another cart. My dad was filling another one, and as I'm approaching the door a woman asks if I can help her get something off the top shelf. Not in any big rush right then, so I figure I'll grab it on my way out the door, and do so. She thanks me, and I resume my trek, heading out the door and grabbing a cart. I'm heading back inside when I hear the call of the wild Karen, although I didn't recognize it immediately. To me, it sounded like someone violently vomiting and gasping at the same time. So I look over to the woman beside me, and say, very simply, excuse you. Apparently, this was a mistake. Because now I hear a sound that very distinctly sounds of indignation and disgust, and the woman, whom is sporting an uneven flock of seagulls cut hairstyle hidden behind vibrant neon green sunglasses, seems to snarl, before asking, where's the sinks? Keep in mind we're outside, in the garden center. So I reply, as kindly as I can, I'm sure there are signs inside. Try walking around and see if you spot any. And I move to walk away. Don't walk away from me, she shrieks. So I glance over, confused as she demands to see my manager. Ma'am, I don't work here. I say, gesturing to my attire. Don't lie to me, you lazy dick. Even though you're off the clock, you should always represent the company, she says. Okay. I said, before purposefully walking away. I knew this was a bad decision, but I figured anyone she could get would have more than her 2 brain cells. I return to my dad and start loading up my cart, hoping she wouldn't be right behind me, but you can see where this story is heading. So you run away from me and start helping him? The Karen says. This whole store is so sexist. I'm paraphrasing here, because her actual words were intense. So my dad explains that I don't work at the store, and she refuses to listen. I saw you helping that other woman, she shrieks. At this point my dad's eyes narrow. I'm sorry, he says, sighing visibly, but the only reason that you have for why my son works here is because he helped another woman? She nods. What sort of world do we live in, he says, that you cannot accept the fact that a person can, without any prospect of reward or profit, help another person simply out of the kindness of their heart? She stares daggers back at him and mumbles about managers and security. At this point my dad pulls out his FBI badge and simply looks at the color draining from her face. Then my dad did something that surprised me. He helped me wheel the carts out to the checkout line, handed me his credit card, and wordlessly went to help the lady find the sinks. Can't believe that I almost forgot that this happened, but I'm glad I didn't. The next story is titled I don't really work here, but happy to help. I used to work in an warehouse of one very big furniture stores in Europe, think IKEA but less Swedish. The warehouse people and the salespeople in the shop had different uniforms and are clearly distinguishable. One day I decided that I would look for a new bed in one of our stores after I finished my work in the warehouse, so I went in, still wearing my warehouse cloths. It had the store logo on my shirt, but it was clear that I don't work on the sales floor and I was dirty from working all day. An old lady came up to me and asked me a lot of stuff about the furniture, like, how much does the table cost? Do you have them in stock? How long do I have to wait to get it if I buy it today? And so on. Because I helped out from time to time in this store, when they were short-staffed, I know my way around there and I also know how to use our internal software. I decided I'd just look the stuff up for her. So I jumped on an terminal, logged in and told her everything that I could find out. After a while, she found a table she wanted to buy and I had to tell her that, although I could sell it to her, I am not allowed to because I don't really work in this store, or as a salesperson in general. She was very embarrassed and scolded me for not telling her sooner. I shrugged it off and told her I had time and was happy to help and I would be glad to find her someone who really can sell her the table. Aftermath. I didn't find a bed I liked, but I talked to the store manager, who I still knew from his time as a warehouse manager, for a bit, and he told me that an old lady praised me for helping her and she told him that he should give me a raise. I didn't get the raise, but he bought me a coffee, which is stilly nice. The next story is titled Neighbor Thinks He's Entitled to Take Our Fence Down. This happened a few years ago and is long. Hope the writing and format is okay. I rent a house with my sister and brother-in-law as well as my hubby and kids. At the time of this I only had the one kid and it's only my sister and I in this story. The neighbor isn't so much a neighbor but a guy who bought the house next door, tore it down and built two of those skinny houses. I can't remember what they are called, property investors, developers, I have no idea. It was summer, so my sister and I were out in our backyard with my daughter playing around when this guy pops his head over our fence and asks if we can talk. I don't like talking to people, so my sister went up to him to see what was up. Guy: Hey, I'm so and so, do you live here? Sister: Yes, we do. Guy: Great. I own these two houses next door and I'm trying to get them ready to put on the market. I have guys coming to build a fence and I was hoping you'd be okay with me having them rebuild this side of your fence as well. I'll cover the costs of everything. Sister: That sounds great, but unfortunately we don't own the place, we rent, so you'll have to call my landlord. I can give you his info. Guy, looking slightly frustrated: Okay. My sister gives him our landlord's number and he leaves. We send off a quick text to our landlord to let him know what happened and that someone would be calling him about the fence. Landlord was game as he didn't have to pay for anything but had a feeling the guy would want to change the fence style, so definitely wanted to talk to him about it. A little over a week later, it was morning. I let my dogs out and went to make my daughter breakfast. I was about to start when the doorbell rang. There was a guy dressed in construction gear. I opened the door and before I can even say hello he goes, "Construction dude, you need to get your dogs inside." Me: And why is that? Construction dude: Because we're here to take the fence down and we can't do that with the dogs out there. Me: Oh sorry, I didn't realize everything had been all sorted out. No one notified me. Y'all get them in. I close the door and as I'm about to head to the back door a thought crosses my mind that maybe I should confirm everything with my landlord. Well, good thing I did, because he had not received one call from anyone about the fence. Not even a missed call from a number he didn't recognize. Nothing. At this point my sister was awake and I had continued to leave my dogs outside. My landlord suggested asking for the supervisor and asking him to have the guy who hired him call my landlord. I forgot to mention, totally important though, my landlord owns the whole fence. Even though it's technically a shared fence, he is the one who owns it completely. They need my landlord permission to take it down or face destruction of property charges. I don't even have a chance to finish writing my landlord's number down before there is another knock at my door. My sister answers this time. Construction dude, you need to get the dogs inside. Sister, you need permission to be here. My landlord just informed us that he had no idea anyone was coming to take the fence down today or any day. Which is pretty concerning since he is the one that owns the fence. Construction dude, I don't know anything about that. Sister, I get that, that's why I need to talk to the supervisor. I can give him landlord's number and we can get this all cleared up. My sister then goes to talk to the supervisor. I stayed inside with my daughter, dogs still outside. My sister comes back and said the supervisor was going to call the guy who owns the houses to get him to call our landlord. About 20 minutes go by when construction dude comes back. Construction dude, everything has been cleared up, could you get the dogs in now? Sister, yes we can. Construction dude, thank you. I let the dogs in and my sister and I go about our day. I should have called my landlord to confirm a second time. About an hour later I get a text from my landlord. Landlord, hey, no one's called me yet, are the construction guys still there? When I tell you, my heart was in my stomach and throat all at the same time. I quickly call him. Me: Oh my god, you need to get down here, I'm so sorry. The construction dude came to the door and said they worked everything out with you and were given the go-ahead to start working. I should have called you again, but I didn't even think. I'm so sorry, so sorry. Landlord: Whoa, it's okay, it's not your fault. You shouldn't even have to be dealing with any of this. The guy should have called me as soon as you said you didn't own the place. Can you do me a favor though? Go see how much of the fence they tore down, and take pictures please. Me: Yeah, I can do that. Landlord: Awesome, send them to me as soon as you have the pictures. I'm on my way. I then go out back to have a smoke and pretend I'm playing on my phone while getting pictures. They had already taken down majority of the fence, the only parts left was the frame about halfway down. I sent the pictures off to my landlord, then went inside to wait till he got here. Now reader, if you haven't already figured out, my landlord is a super calm guy. He knows his laws and knew this was going to go his way no matter how it played out. When he got to the house, he walked up to the supervisor with a smile on his face. Everything that follows was told to me by landlord after he was done talking. I'm trying to remember this as best as I can. So landlord went to the supervisor. Landlord: hey, I own this house here and this happens to be my fence you're currently tearing apart. Supervisor: eyes go a bit wide. Oh, we had permission to. Landlord: no, you had permission from no one. No one with the authority to give you permission anyway. I also know for a fact my tenant told you that you needed to have your client call me. Supervisor: I called him and he said he didn't need to do that and that everything was good to go, he already had your permission. Landlord: then I suggest you call him up for me please. Supervisor calls guy and explains that my landlord was there and wanted to talk to him. Landlord: hey there, I'm the guy that owns the house that you're currently destroying the fence of. I'm just wondering why you thought you had permission to tear apart my fence? Guy: oh, I didn't realize the house was owned by someone else. The girl I talked to said I could go ahead and replace the fence. Landlord: laughs: no, she didn't. She told you that she didn't own the place and you needed to call me, even gave you my number. Guy: now that's not true. Landlord: just don't. I trust my tenants more than I trust you. So stop with this and instead let's talk about the fence. I want my fence back the way it was. Guy: I was of course going to put the fence back. I was going to change the style a bit, is that alright? Landlord: no, it's not. Had you called me and I could have worked out a new style of fence. All I would have asked is that it at least looks similar to the rest of my fence. Now if you want a new fence you can pay to have my whole fence replaced to look the same. Guy: okay, I'll have the fence redone the way it was. Landlord: sounds great, also don't forget the nice side, faces me. We all then had a good laugh about how everything played out. Before leaving, my landlord asked if we needed them to do anything to make all this easier on us, since we were the ones living here. We asked that he have them bring in a temporary fence so that we could still let the dogs out. Landlord said he would make sure they brought one in at the expense of the guy, of course. You may think this is the end, but it is not. A temporary fence was brought in, essentially these huge metal panels held together by a metal connector at the bottom and zip ties. We didn't care, it worked. They built the fence, but they left a huge gap between the sidewalk in the backyard and the fence. About a foot deep and wide enough that I could fit my whole leg in it no problem. They also left the temporary fence for 2 weeks until my dad took it apart and heaved it over the fence. Also, my front gate had to be taken apart, and instead of building it the way it was originally, gate was connected to fence when as wide as sidewalk, then another little bit of fence was built to connect it to the house. Instead they built me a barn door of a gate. So heavy that it leans, so I have to lift it every time I go to open it, or else it's a B to get it unlocked. I also don't have sidewalk where the new lock was. It dipped down into a rock bed where I would be too short to even reach the lock. Called my landlord and he had the guy have the workers come back twice, once to pack the gap they left behind and then the second time so they could add paving stones to the rock bed so that I could reach the lock. Again, this was all done on the guy's dime, and when he tried to complain about it, my landlord reminded him that this could have gone a whole other way and be costing him a lot more money. Also that he could make him have them rebuild the gate to the original instead of just fixing the problems they created. Hope you guys enjoyed. The next story is titled, I Don't Work Here. Well, you should. And you should get a raise too. I work for a company that gives me pretty good security and decent benefits. I had this throughout the entirety of the health crisis. I'm also lactose intolerant. Yes, they're connected to the story, I promise. I was running low on the most magical of little pills that allow me to enjoy the lactic lady of dairy delights without feeling like I'd been run over by a herd of donkeys afterwards. I knew I could buy these at the local health food, vitamin type shop near home, so off I toddled to ensure the enjoyment of a dose of cheddar later. This was during a time when the shop only allowed a certain number of people in at a time. An older lady was peering in and struck up a conversation with me. I'm not sick. I promise, I've just been feeling a bit run down is all. I sympathized and told her I was just popping in for one thing and she was welcome to go ahead of me, "Oh no," says she. "I don't even know what I need, I just need something to perk me up." My mother, being a very holistic type of woman, liked to tell me all of the benefits of various tinctures and herbs that would change my life. She gave up on these when it became clear nothing could cure my terrible sense of humor, but I digress. "My mother swears by evening primrose oil," I said. "It may be worth a try if you just want a little something in general, though I can't promise results as this is all second-hand information." Her eyes lit up, her mouth opened, it was as though I'd pulled a rabbit out of a hat then started playing jazz with it. "That's it. That's what I wanted." I'd forgotten the name. She couldn't thank me enough. I'd had a moment of brilliance and she was determined to let me know how grateful she was. A couple of people stepped out, so we were both welcomed inside, where she immediately asked me where one might find evening primrose oil. "I'm not sure, I'm afraid I don't work here. But if I had to guess, I'd think they'd be with the other supplements over there." It wasn't a large shop and I vaguely knew where stuff was. With the employee distracted by the only other customer checking out, I thought it made sense to help the older lady figure things out. She went a-questing for her oil, I traversed the aisles for my pills and did get them. When she popped her head up again and saw me checking out at the till, she called out to the employee, "She deserves a raise, you know. She's very good at her job, she's been so helpful." The employee and I chuckled as I reiterated that I didn't work there, but appreciated the sentiment. I finished the transaction as the older lady absorbed this information. She wasn't sure what to think, she'd been so certain. This was the only way she knew to show her appreciation, unless. Her face broke out in a beam of determination as she looked towards the actual employee and thus spake. "Well, she should have a job, and she deserves a pay rise. Thank you for that, but I already have a job." "It's a nice thought though," I said, already heading back to the front doors. "But you're so good at this one, go on. Offer her a job. You wouldn't regret it, you know." I all but leapt through the doors as the poor employee did her best to promise the woman that they weren't trying to avoid offering me a job. It just didn't seem like I wanted one, and yes, they were just as good as me, and yes, they promised they would offer me a job again if I ever pop in, just please let them ring her up, etc., etc. Definitely a happy ending for me though. I got a delicious cheesy pasta dinner. The next story is titled An Encounter I Just Had at a Local Bookstore. So I was at a brick-and-mortar chain bookstore. I won't mention what the name of the store is, just in case that's against the rules. And a middle-aged woman comes up to me and asks where she can find a book on bike repair. "I don't work here," I reply to her. And she says, "Oh, my apologies. The staff here doesn't wear uniforms or anything like that, so it's hard to tell who does and doesn't work here unless you can see the spot on their chests where the name tags usually are." Perfectly understandable. "Oh look," I say, pointing over to a man about 20 feet away with a name tag on the left side of his chest, above his shirt pocket. "There's a sales associate right there. He should be able to help you." She says thanks and walks over to him. Look, I never claimed it was an interesting story. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.